And this investment opportunity, which is ultimately what this is.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile everyone.
There's a lot of education that needs to go into this.
Luckily, it's community-based, and the whole issue of starting to see ecosystems, the mangroves that they live with.
And is that an element of education and behavior change as well?
The whole monitoring, management, getting policies in place, coastal ecosystems, they're the first to go with development, as I mentioned earlier.
They know how to do it, they know how to account for it, we know how to verify it, and we know how to sell it. For us to maximize the opportunity, and then all of the multiple benefits that we see that have been listed here for communities, for Pacific.
Honourable Minister, and the panellists, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be very brief actually, because I think the Minister essentially said what I wanted to say. I'm sure Tahalo has also addressed many of the issues, but I suppose the short message from us is that, from the Pacific at least, and I'm sure many other oceanic countries, is that we need to fix up our oceans if we want to address climate change. It was interesting because we generally refer to as small island developing states, and a couple of years ago when we had Prime Minister Modi visiting Fiji, he said you're actually not small island developing states, you're actually large oceanic countries. And I think that's a sort of reverse way of looking at things, and we need to be cognizant of that. I'd like to thank, of course, the Australians for this initiative and this announcement of $6 million. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that through the Blue Carbon Initiative, we'll be able to address many of the issues that currently many of the Pacific Island countries are facing, fundamentally because of socioeconomic pressure, fundamentally because of the fact that lifestyles are also changing. We also have encroaching waters, inundation of waters. We have 6 villages that have already been moved to higher ground in Fiji. And of course it means we've got another 43 that have been earmarked to be moved to higher ground. What it does, apart from the fact we have this relocation, is how you actually view these blue carbon ecosystems. Because the villages are no longer part and parcel of that ecosystem. The way that they will view that ecosystem will not necessarily be in a very positive manner, nor will they have a sense of identity with that ecosystem. So I think there's a number of issues at play. In order to have sustainability of many of these projects, as we had the launch early on this afternoon about with the Ensure Resilience that was initiated by the German government, we need to have private sector participation in all of these initiatives to be able to ensure that we have sustainability. Because small island states like Fiji and many other countries, including our development partners, cannot forever be funding it completely through grant funding. We need to be able to, at least in the initial stages, be able to have a system that will ensure a lot more partners, that will ensure private sector participation, and how do we actually maintain that on a sustainable level. And on the flip side, of course, and slightly different to blue carbon, is of course the fact that we need to have some adaptation measures too, in respect of our coastal areas. The one very practical issue that I'd like to highlight is I told a short story. In Fiji, nearly about 32% of the population, that when they actually die, they actually cremate the dead. Now, in one part of Fiji, for cremation purposes, they actually use this timber called dongo, which is actually the mangrove. So, even though there may be restrictions, because there's such a huge demand for dongo, because it's a very emotional issue, people do need to cremate their dead, their loved ones, so there will still be pressure. So there will be actually illegal harvesting of dongo, of the mangrove. So what we have done, for example, in this year's budget, we've allocated funding to provide for guest crematoriums. So that will put less pressure on people wanting to access the mangrove forest for cremation. So these are many of the sort of solutions that we can actually find where you'll actually preserve those ecosystems. Of course, from an overall UNFCCC process and the Paris Agreement, as Tahalo would have mentioned, we are launching the Oceans Pathway, and I'm sure he's briefed you about that, and how we want to include that into the sort of mainstream speak as far as this process is concerned. So with those few words, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you to the Australian Government's initiative, and we look forward to working with all the development partners and other interested parties to ensure that we preserve the ecosystems in the oceans. Thank you.
Firstly, thank you everybody for making the effort to come and support this initiative on blue carbon. This is a very exciting area which has been underdone in terms of countries' NDCs and the focus of previous climate change talks. As you know, it's been something that Australia has been driving because we are home to 10% of the world's mangroves, and we have a vested interest in ensuring the conservation, the preservation of our tidal marshes, of our sea grasses, of our mangroves, and indeed we do in the region as well, because whether it's Fiji or Indonesia or many other countries in the region, there is a very strong presence of these blue carbon ecosystems. As you know, as a result of the Blue Carbon Partnership Initiative, we've now got 24 particular partners, and those partners stem across government, the private sector, not-for-profit organisations and people who are very interested in this area. I'm very pleased that the Federated States of Micronesia, Papua New Guinea, Palau and others have also shown a great deal of interest. The fact that in these blue carbon ecosystems they can sequester 4 times as much carbon as a terrestrial forest or a land-based forest really does underline and emphasise how important they are to the climate change effort, because if they're degraded, if they're not preserved, then the impact on our carbon footprint is very, very significant. What we would like to see is a greater collection of data, knowledge, capacity building in relation to blue carbon in order to incentivise further investment in this particular area. And so what we're announcing today is that Australia will invest $6 million to enhance the work in the area of blue carbon. We're going to be partnering with significant private sector companies like ANZ, Qantas Airways and others who are well known in Australia, who have a deep commitment to reducing emissions. Under this initiative, we'll help to address the priority blue carbon data, knowledge and the capacity needs in the Pacific. We'll support the integration of blue carbon into national climate policies and management strategies. And we will help develop innovative blue carbon financing and investment approaches. And we'll be looking to the private sector to help advise us on the most innovative financing approaches, how we can build greater awareness, and how we can involve more broadly the private sector in blue carbon projects. So it is very pleasing that at this COP we're building on the work that has been done at previous COPs, and this started at Paris, and that we are now expanding the investment in this particular area in order to better preserve our blue carbon ecosystems and to ensure that countries are able to collect the necessary data and get the necessary financing so they can form a part of the NDCs and our climate change efforts. So thank you very much.